Imagine moving into your dream home, only to find it's haunted by evil spirits. One family heard doors slamming, smelled strange odors, and saw creepy ghosts. Welcome to the Amityville Horror House, where a horrible mass murder happened and people believe it's haunted. Stick around because this story is truly terrifying. Welcome to our channel. In today's video, we're diving deep into the chilling story of the Amityville Horror House. Located in Amityville, New York, this house is infamous for a horrific mass murder and is said to be haunted by malevolent spirits. Let's explore the dark history and terrifying tales surrounding this infamous location. Our story starts on a cold November night in 1974. In the quiet town of Amityville, something horrifying happened that shocked everyone. Ronald DeFeo Jr., a 23-year-old, did the unthinkable. He brutally killed his entire family, his parents, 2 brothers, and 2 sisters. They were all found dead in their beds at 112 Ocean Avenue. Ronald used a .35 caliber rifle, but strangely, none of the neighbors heard the gunshots. The bodies were found face down, almost as if they were put that way. At first, Ronald said a mob hitman did it, but soon his story fell apart and he confessed. He later claimed that voices in the house made him do it. His lawyer said he was insane and influenced by supernatural forces, but he was sentenced to 6 life terms in prison. 13 months after the horrific murders, George and Kathy Lutz bought the house for a low price of $80,000. George, a former Marine, had started a successful land surveying business. Kathy, a warm and loving mother, took care of their 3 children. Danny, who was 9, Missy, who was 7, and Chris, who was 5. The Lutz family was excited to move into their new home, thinking it was the perfect place to start fresh and build a happy life together. But right away, strange and terrifying things began to happen. On their very first night, the Lutz family experienced bizarre events. Doors slammed shut on their own, and weird smells filled the house. They heard strange noises at night, footsteps, bangs, and whispers. The weirdest thing was green slime oozing from the walls and keyholes. George began waking up at exactly 3:15 a.m. every night, the same time the DeFeo murders happened. He always felt cold and saw a creepy pig-like creature with glowing red eyes staring at him through the windows. Kathy said she was attacked by invisible forces, levitating off her bed and seeing hoof prints in the snow outside. The kids' beds shook, and they saw dark, shadowy figures in their rooms. Desperate for help, the Lutz family asked a priest to bless the house. Father Ralph Pecoraro, known as Father Mancuso, came to bless the home. As soon as he started, he heard a deep, menacing voice telling him to get out. He felt a sudden slap across his face. He told the Lutz family to leave immediately, but they decided to stay. The haunting only got worse. George's behavior became bizarre. He spent hours chopping wood, staring into the fireplace. He became angry and distant, like someone else was taking over him. Kathy said she was aging rapidly, with deep wrinkles and lines appearing on her face overnight. One night, George was woken up by the sound of loud, heavy breathing coming from the foot of his bed. As he looked, he saw a dark, shadowy figure slowly crawling up the bed towards him. Frozen in fear, he couldn't move or scream. The figure stopped inches from his face, its icy breath chilling him to the bone. Suddenly, it vanished, leaving George gasping for air and drenched in sweat. Kathy had her own terrifying experience in the kitchen. She was making breakfast when all the cabinets and drawers violently flew open, crashing their contents onto the floor. Pots, pans, and utensils clattered loudly, and the room filled with a deafening noise. As she stood in shock, she felt a cold, unseen hand grip her shoulder tightly, causing her to scream and drop the frying pan she was holding. The grip loosened, and the chaos stopped as abruptly as it had started, leaving Kathy trembling and in tears. The children were not spared from the terror. They saw horrifying figures in their rooms and were tormented by unseen forces. The youngest child, Missy, had an imaginary friend named Jody, a pig-like creature with glowing red eyes, just like the one George had seen. One night, Kathy was tucking Missy into bed when she noticed Missy talking to someone. "Who are you talking to, sweetie?" Kathy asked. "Jody," Missy replied, pointing to the corner of the room. Kathy felt a chill run down her spine. There was no one there. "What does Jody look like?" she asked. "Jody is a pig with big red eyes," Missy said cheerfully. "She says she likes me." A few nights later, George and Kathy were woken up by Missy's laughter. It was around 3:15 a.m. They rushed to her room and found her sitting up in bed, giggling and talking to someone they couldn't see. "What's so funny, Missy?" George asked, trying to stay calm. "Jody says she wants to play," Missy replied. Just then, the room became ice cold and the window slammed shut by itself. Missy pointed to the window. "There she is!" she exclaimed. George and Kathy looked, and for a split second, they saw the reflection of a pig-like face with glowing red eyes staring back at them. They were terrified. The next morning, Kathy found small hoof prints in the snow outside Missy's window. There were no animal tracks leading to or away from the prints. It was as if something had just appeared and then disappeared into thin air. Missy's behavior continued to get stranger. She often talked about Jody and even set a place for her at the dinner table. One afternoon, while playing outside, Missy suddenly ran to the edge of the property, stopping just before the boathouse. Kathy called out to her, but Missy ignored her, staring intently at something Kathy couldn't see. "Missy, come back here!" Kathy shouted. Missy turned around, her face pale. "Jody says you shouldn't yell, Mommy," she said in a flat, eerie tone. That night, Missy woke up screaming. George and Kathy ran to her room and found her standing in the middle of her bed, pointing at the window. "Jody says bad things are coming," she cried. The window, which had been firmly shut, was now wide open, despite the freezing winter air outside. George rushed to close it, feeling the intense cold radiating from it. He looked out and saw the glowing red eyes of Jody in the darkness, watching them. These terrifying encounters with Missy's imaginary friend Jody were some of the most chilling experiences the Lutz family faced in the Amityville Horror House. Despite these warnings and the growing terror, the family stayed in the house, hoping they could somehow find peace in their new house. But evil designs of supernatural forces not let them do so. One night, George heard loud banging noises from the basement. When he went to check, he found a hidden red room that wasn't on any of the house's plans. It was small and creepy, with walls covered in a dark, sticky substance. The room seemed to pulse with a life of its own, and George felt an overwhelming sense of dread. Things took a dark turn when the family dog, Harry, began acting strangely. He barked furiously at empty corners, whimpered in fear, and refused to enter certain rooms. One night, George found Harry with his fur standing on end, staring at the basement door. George tried to comfort him, but the dog remained terrified, growling and backing away. Kathy also had terrifying experiences. She woke up one night feeling like she was being strangled. She saw shadowy hands around her neck, squeezing tighter and tighter until she could hardly breathe. Just as she was about to pass out, the hands vanished, leaving her gasping for air. The children were also targeted. Their beds shook violently, and they saw ghostly faces staring at them from the walls. One night, Missy woke up screaming that Jody was in her room, glowing red eyes watching her from the corner. George rushed in, but there was nothing there, just the feeling of icy cold and the faint sound of whispering. Desperate to save their family, George and Kathy called in paranormal investigators Ed and Lorraine Warren. The Warrens immediately sensed a dark, malevolent presence in the house. During their investigation, they captured eerie photographs and recordings of ghostly voices. One famous photo showed a ghostly child peering out from a doorway, even though no children were present. The Warrens warned the Lutz family that the house was infested with evil spirits and urged them to leave. But before they could pack up and go, the house seemed to turn on them. Doors slammed shut, trapping them inside. Windows shattered, sending glass flying across the rooms. The walls echoed with sinister laughter and blood-curdling screams. After 28 days of terror, the Lutz family fled the house in the middle of the night, leaving all their belongings behind. They moved in with Kathy's mother and vowed never to return. Their story quickly gained media attention, and they wrote a book called The Amityville Horror, which became a bestseller and inspired numerous movies. Some people think the Lutz family's story was made up to make money. There were inconsistencies in their accounts and no physical evidence. But many believe 112 Ocean Avenue is haunted by evil spirits. Paranormal investigators have checked out the house. Some took eerie photos and recordings, while others felt a bad presence. A famous photo by Ed and Lorraine Warren well-known paranormal investigators, shows what looks like a ghostly child in a doorway. The house has attracted many curious visitors and ghost hunters hoping to see something spooky. Over the years, the house has had many owners. Some experienced paranormal activity, while others didn't. One owner said the eye windows glowed with an unearthly light at night. The house has been involved in legal battles. Some owners sued, saying the house's haunted reputation caused them problems. The notoriety made it hard for residents to have privacy, with people often trespassing. The Lutz family's story has been questioned. In 1979, William Weber, Ronald DeFeo Jr.'s defense lawyer, said he and the Lutzes made up the haunting story over wine to make money. But George and Kathy Lutz defended their story until they died, saying they really experienced the paranormal events. They even passed lie detector tests. Despite doubts and legal issues, the Amityville horror story still scares and fascinates people. The story has inspired movies, books, and documentaries. The 1979 film and its 2005 remake introduced new generations to the tale. Each retelling adds to the legend, keeping the story of the Amityville Horror House alive. The house has been featured in TV shows and paranormal investigations like Ghost Adventures and The Haunting. These shows mix fact and fiction, blurring the lines between reality and legend. The Amityville Horror House remains a creepy and fascinating place. Its scary reputation continues, and it attracts those interested in the paranormal. Tours of the house are popular, and its story is a staple of ghost tours and paranormal discussions. The true story of the Amityville Horror House may never be fully known. The mix of real tragedy, supernatural claims, and media hype has created a lasting legend. Whether the house is haunted or not, its story reminds us of the thin line between reality and the unknown. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more creepy stories. Do you think the Amityville Horror House is really haunted? Have you ever? Until next time, stay curious, stay safe, and remember, sometimes the scariest stories are the ones that are real.